If you're married or in a committed relationship and the sex and the bedroom play is not where you want it to be, your wife has withdrawn, she's gone cold, she seems uninterested, she's not super responsive to your advances, she says yes, but it feels like pity sex. If that's happening, I want to go over why. I want to explain to you what happens in relationships from what I've seen and how you can fix it because life is too short for bad sex. I'm going to just say it. I'm going to put it out there. Life is just too short for bad sex. If you're new here, my name is Dr. John DeBach. I've been a couples counselor and relationship coach for about a decade and a half. Been on national TV. I've published books. I have a social media following of over 1 million followers that we built over the last year from zero without spending a dollar on ads. And I believe that the reason it's caught on and the things that I speak about connect with people is because I try to tell the truth as plainly as I can with as much helpful guidance as I can. You be the judge. But the most important qualification I think that matters is that I am married myself. My wife is a psychologist. We have 4 kids together. We've been together 15 years. And everything I talk about is stuff that I live in my own life, as opposed to a lot of other gurus out there who are just married, single, divorced 3 times. I think you have to kind of judge who you're listening to, including me. By all means, you should be able to judge what you're listening to and see if it's valuable. So I'm going to break this down into 3 different reasons. And there are more, but I don't want to take up so much time and make like an hour-and-a-half video of every single reason why a woman might go cold in the bedroom. So I'm going to break it down to the 3 most common that I see. Now, this is coming from a little bit of a bias. So I see this happening with men who are 40, 45, and older. Okay. Now, can it happen when you're younger? Absolutely. But most of my clients are in that age range. So if you're married, you've been in a relationship for a long time, naturally there are going to be big swells of good physical chemistry with you and your partner, and then lulls, right? So if you're in a lull and it's longer than a week or 2 or a few months, then you kind of want to have to start paying attention as to what's going on, okay? So the first one is the way that sex is initiated. The way that physical intimacy is initiated really makes a difference. I cannot tell you how many times I'm sitting with a man and he says, I don't initiate, or my wife used to initiate, or I wish my wife would initiate. And that is a big part of the problem. Think back for a moment. Think back to the way you guys were when you were dating. And I know for some of you watching this, that might be 10, 20, even more years ago. Who was the initiator in the relationship? Who was the one that pursued physically the other more often than not? If it was you, I have some kind of hard news to break to you. The initiator is usually a permanent role, just like breastfeeding, right? If you initiate in the relationship, chances are you're going to continue to initiate. And I have some more bad news. If your wife was the initiator and she's kind of grown tired of initiating, you might have to step up to the plate. Now, I don't know why I get so much resistance from men about this across the board. Like, why can't she take turns? Because she's a woman, you're a man. Step up to the plate and pursue. That's the answer. Now, the real crux of why this is hard for men is because of rejection. And I understand that. If you've been turned down for years or even decades, getting rejected again by your wife, like I'm not in the mood. And a lot of men are even allergic to it at some point. They won't even say, do you want to go to the bedroom or be so bold? They'll put their hand on their wife's knee and their wife's knee will just kind of move aside and not be interested. And they take that as if she said, I'm never having sex with you again. You need to develop a little bit of grit, a little bit of resilience. And so here's what I want you to do. If you are the one who's supposed to initiate and you haven't, initiate in a way where there's not a lot of pressure. And then if she says no, ask why. Okay, that's what I want you to do. I want you to ask why. So if you say, hey, we haven't fooled around in a while, I miss you, throw her a compliment. You look amazing, right? You think we can fool around? You think we can have sex tonight, tomorrow, whatever you want, this evening, in an hour now, depending on when you ask. If she says, I just, no thanks, right? Ask why. Say, is there something I'm doing wrong? I miss you. I want to connect with you. Is my approach not right? Are you mad at me for something? I get it. You don't want to. I'm not going to push. I want to understand what's going on with you. You will be amazed how quickly that solves your problem. That is the quickest and easiest answer to understanding how and why you are failing in this department and how quickly you can turn it around. I also want to bring up the other way that men initiate, which is, before moving on to the other two, which is very bad. So if you are a man who has developed an anxious attachment style, I see a lot of men just kind of sulking when they don't get enough physical affection. They just kind of go, or they even start complaining, like, why don't we ever do this? And that's not attractive. And what happens is it becomes a band aid to a bigger problem where your self worth is tied up in sex with your partner. And it needs to be independent of that. What makes people excited to jump into bed with someone isn't if they need sex because it makes them feel good about themselves. It's they're already feeling good about themselves and they want to show up in the bedroom. And a lot of men, they just kind of fail at this after a while. And it's not necessarily your fault. Listen, if you're sitting here listening to this saying, I don't initiate, and yes, I do sulk, cut yourself a little bit of slack. Chances are 20, 30 years of your life, or in your marriage, or even if it's shorter, only a few years, you've been told, you can't do anything right, or at least it feels that way, and you've been beaten down. But you need to find it for yourself. No one can build your self-confidence completely. I can help coach you, your wife can help in moments, you have friends that can help. At the end of the day, you need to find it. The second reason, and this is the one that I think most women will talk about openly, is that there isn't an emotional engagement. There isn't an emotional connection that they are feeling with you as their husband. Now, you might say, oh, come on, another, thing about emotional entanglement. But let me tell you, I had a wife where I was dealing with both a couple, right? Husband and wife. And I said, is there any foreplay? Is there any flirting going on? And she says, very little. And he says, well, when do you want it to start, honey? I mean, sometimes it's 30 minutes, 40 minutes of foreplay. And her answer was very telling. She said, foreplay starts in the morning when you make me a cup of coffee and a little post-it note that says, I love you. His jaw dropped on the floor. He goes, that's not foreplay. Foreplay is, and he went on to describe sexual acts. But she's right. The biggest sexual organ in the human body is the brain. And if you can engage your wife's brain, if you can engage that emotional side where she feels wanted and desired in a way that's comforting and helpful, foreplay starts in the morning. By the way, if you're enjoying this kind of content, if you find it helpful, make sure to hit the like and subscribe button. It really helps the channel, helps guys find this. It really helps, the platform push it to other men. So if you find it helpful, I'm sure others will. It's free. It only takes a second. I would really appreciate it. So the emotional component is huge. How you show up, I'm going to give you a tip from the therapy chair. Ask questions. How are you doing? How's work? How's your social circle? Have you spoken to your friends in a while? How's your mom? How's your sister? Oh, that's interesting. What else happened? Right? Ask questions. Most women, obviously everybody's different, but I'll speak in generalities here. Most women are dying to share. The problem is they don't think their husband cares enough. And so they stop sharing or they feel resentful that they're not asking more questions. Ask questions and ask follow-up. Anytime you ask a question, try not to make it a yes or no. Don't say, did you speak to your mom today? Right? Say, when's the last time you spoke to her? And then you follow up with 2 more questions. How's she feeling? Right? What's going on in her life? Suddenly you're interested, you're emotionally engaged, she feels seen, she feels heard. It's huge. The third thing, and this is true of new moms or of women who are going through different changes in their life, is overwhelm. Overwhelm is humongous. So with new moms, a lot of the times they're just not getting enough sleep and they're breastfeeding and their body is tired and yes, sexual intimacy will go down a hill. Sometimes it falls off a cliff when things are tough. But it's not exclusive to new moms. Sometimes, if you have adult children and they're going through a particularly difficult time, the stress and anxiety of worrying about your older kids really takes a toll on a woman. And emotionally, they don't have a way to compartmentalize. One thing I got to tell you, if you're listening to this as a man, this was huge for me to understand when I started working with clients. Men and women generally handle things very differently in their brain. So as a man, when I'm sitting here talking to you, making a video, this is the only thing on my mind. I have tunnel vision. When if a woman is making this video, generally speaking again, she'll be making the video, but she'll also be thinking about when she has to pick up the kids or whose birthday is coming up and how she's happy or unhappy in her career and what's going on with that friend. She said she was having a difficult time, conceiving and her mother's sick and oh my God, I haven't had my teeth checked in a while. Why am I always last on the list? There's a lot of noise. There's a lot of noise. Just generally speaking, they call it mental load. Men aren't like that generally. Some men are anxious and they have that Woody Allen caricature personality where they're worrying about everything. And if that's you, then there's tools to help you learn to compartmentalize. But most men have tunnel vision. When I'm at work, I'm at work. When I'm at home, I'm at home. And so this overwhelm happens both on the physical and the mental level. But the more stress you have, the more stress she's dealing with, the harder it's going to be for you to connect because she's just drained. It's like a gas tank and she's on empty. What's your job? You have two options. Be patient and understanding and realize it's going to be a little while, or help with the stress. I'll give you an example from an actual client I had. It was an accident. He wasn't intending to be the world's greatest husband, but things were falling through the cracks with his wife. And he said, you know what? My mom is coming into town. Let me see if I can extend her trip a little. He pulled his mom aside and he said, listen, my wife is having a really hard time. I'm trying not to use names to respect the privacy here, obviously. My wife's having a really hard time. Would you mind helping out with the kids, letting her rest, letting her take a nap? I'll come home early. We'll cover shifts. We'll get takeout. No one has to cook. And for 3 days straight, he just let his wife rest. She was a little resistant. She's like, no, I'll make dinner. He's like, I already ordered. Don't worry. You look like you can use a nap, like not that you don't look great, but like, listen, you've been working your butt off. My mom's here. I'll take care of it, honey. Don't worry. And he didn't do it with any kind of, ulterior motive other than he saw his wife was really kind of worn thin. And his mom, God bless her, really stepped up. And after those 3 days, she was rested. Not only was she rested and grateful, she jumped him. She jumped him in bed. He said it was the first time she initiated in over a year. Why? Because there was space. There was space to relax and be in her body and, send that little mental, inspector down through the different parts of the body and say, how do I feel? Oh, I feel rested. Oh my God, let me go south. Oh, I feel excited. I feel a craving. People need rest. Women are no different. Mental load is a real thing. If you want to dive in deeper as to what's going on in your relationship, I'm going to be starting a men's group very soon. It's going to be private. It's going to be exclusive, working one-on-one in a community with some video stuff. If you're interested, the information is going to be below. If you want to work with me privately, that's also an option. Information is also below. Thank you so much for watching.